Good morning and welcome to a presentation on gender dynamics along traditional vegetable value chains in Tanzania. Horticulture is a fast-growing sector in Tanzania, and actors from research and development are engaged in this field. But we do not know enough about gender dynamics along vegetable value chains. What are the barriers for vegetable value chain participation for women, for men? And what do men and women gain from their participation? Are women in trade, in vegetable trade, actually better off than women in agriculture, as it is sometimes assumed in development programs? If development actors want to achieve fair or equitable outcomes, then they have to engage with these questions. In this presentation, I look at value chains of traditional African vegetables. Only one non-traditional vegetable was included, namely tomatoes. It is a joint study of IITA, the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, and the World Vegetable Center, and I am presenting here on behalf of my team. The investigation is based on a framework for a gendered value chain analysis, which was developed by Coles and Mitchell. And they speak of 3 levels of analysis. The first level, which is the lowest level here on the slide, is the level of institutions, the level of written and unwritten rules, the level of gender norms that produce inequalities. The second level is the level of the household. Here, gender norms manifest themselves, show themselves in inequalities. And the third level is the level of the value chain. Gender norms shape the functions that men and women have in the chain and the benefits that they receive. Apart from these levels, Coles and Mitchell suggest focusing on participation and gains. On the left side of the circle, you can see participation. Participation in value chains has preconditions. You need to have access to resources. Producers, for instance, need land or water. Traders need access to capital. Apart from this, labor needs to be invested. Gender norms influence access to resources. They influence labor at the household level. They shape if men and women can get involved in value chains. On the right side of the circle, you can see gains. Gains are influenced by gender patterns of income distribution, expenditure distribution at the household level. Participation does not automatically lead to gains, and gains are not necessarily based on participation. Household power relations may create a situation where one member participates while another member reaps the benefits. It is therefore very important to pay attention to the intermediate layer of household decision-making. It matters in terms of how participation can translate into gains. In this presentation, I will look at the balances and imbalances of participation and gains. I will do so for vegetable producing households, for vegetable trading households, and finally, I will compare across the 2 nodes on the value chain. Before I go to the results, just a few notes on the data. Data were collected in 3 districts of Tanzania. We used a mixed methods approach and combined survey data with focus group discussions, participatory exercises, and semi-structured interviews. Overall, we made efforts to create a gender-balanced sample. This was difficult in vegetable retail because women play a predominant role in this field, so a slight imbalance remained especially among vegetable retailers. There are two important limitations. Data were extracted from larger economic surveys, and we only had one respondent per household. So if we look at what happens within households, we only have the perspective of one respondent, and we need to carefully validate with other data in order to make statements on intra-household processes. Second limitation, data on labor, income, and expenditure are not diary-based, they are self-indicated, and therefore we deliberately speak about perceptions at this point. Now turning to the producers and participation and gains among producers. For value chain participation, access to resources is necessary, and extension is one of these resources. Men had individually met with extension officers twice as often than women in a given period. Credit access emerged as low with no gender differences. In such a situation, it is important to have control over income. Women claimed that this has advantages for men because they have higher levels of income control, and therefore they can invest in more input-intensive crops or profitable crops, such as tomatoes, they said. Qualitative data revealed the importance of land ownership for vegetable production. Men themselves expressed superior opportunities in terms of plot and crop choice, and this was based on land ownership. Women were limited in this respect and also partly limited in their access to water. This situation is also mirrored in the labor arrangements, partly mirrored. Both men and women cultivate leafy and fruit vegetables, but leafy vegetable cultivation was more common among women, and this was attributed to smaller land sizes and low access to income. Looking at labor sharing, and this is the green table at the left bottom of the slide. Looking at labor sharing, men rated their own labor share in household vegetable production at 59%. Women in male-headed households rated it at 71%. Both groups perceived their own labor investment as higher than that of their spouses. Turning to the gains, which is the lower row in the table, male vegetable farmers indicated higher annual household incomes than female respondents in male-headed households. So how can you explain this finding? In focus group discussions, we requested respondents to interpret this finding. Why is there a difference in terms of income? And they explained that this is based on a strategic non-disclosure of information, meaning husbands and wives work together, they share the labor, but they do not necessarily share information on the income earned, generated through sales. So this was also confirmed by the survey. Women generally know less about their husband's income than husbands know about their wife's income. And women felt that this puts them into a difficult position. They do not know what their husband earns, and therefore women have to use more of their own income to cover expenditure. Turning to the traders, participation and gains of traders. There were again no differences in credit access. It was as low as for farmers. Most traders had taken capital from their own savings. Looking at the labor shares, the yellow table at the left bottom, the perception of own labor shares was even higher in trade. In other words, in trade, men and women, husbands and wives seem to cooperate less. Men rated their contribution at 71% and women at 88%. Vegetable retailing, for instance, was depicted as a female task. It used to be a male task in the past. So market chairpersons talked of a new feminization of vegetable retail. Men are moving into trade with less perishable goods. They move into formal employment, we were told. Turning to the gains, traders indicated higher annual household incomes than producers. Women traders indicated even higher annual incomes in their households than men traders for theirs. However, you have to know this is an average, this is a mean, and the mean masks a wide variation of income, especially among female retailers. And those with the lowest income, those retailers, earned even less than the average of women producers. So if we compare income and expenditure shares, women traders saw themselves as making substantial income contributions in their households, but also as covering a substantial part of household expenditures. In interviews, many female traders expressed that they have a good level of control over their own income. Let us now compare the two notes. If we compare the results for farmers and traders, let us look at labor first, which is the table in green and yellow on this slide. Farmers generally indicated more labor sharing between husbands and wives than traders. Differences are only gradual, but this emerged as a tendency. For income and expenditure perceptions, we have a detailed table in our publication, which is on the right top of the slide, but I will only summarize. In producers' households, it was more common to find the perception that men have a high share of income and a high share of expenditure, and it's above 75%. In traders' households, there was a stronger perception of balanced income contributions, balanced expenditure contributions, with husbands and wives each contributing between 25 and 75%. So now asking more or less balance, which is the left lower part of this slide. The questions are, can we assume that producers have more balance in labor, more shared labor, but less balance in income and expenditure? And traders, do they have less balance in labor, but more balance in income and expenditure shares? Could it be that farming is more of a joint business with patriarchal income control, meaning high levels of control by men, while trade is more of an individual business with separate income control? These contrasting results for farmers and traders, they call for more research. Now, one conclusion one might draw is that inequitable gender norms manifest themselves more strongly in producers than in traders' households, but this would need more research, especially qualitative research. What became clear in this study is that multiple norms coexist. They coexist in the same environment. So patriarchal norms are strong, especially for farmers, but some men and women also depicted other cases, deviant cases. households in which income is pooled, it is decided upon jointly. They saw these households as more likely to move out of poverty. As a man in Babati said, homes that lack participation, these are the homes that we say are still based on patriarchy. Even when you look at their level of development, they haven't reached far. Because if the mother cannot advise the father, he is likely to do whatever he thinks is right, even if it is not. So this connects well with our conclusions, the observation by the respondent. So for government and other development actors, it will become more and more important to integrate so-called household methodologies into their interventions. Household methodologies consist of a repertoire of tools. Through these tools, members of a household develop a shared vision. They establish where they want to go and how to achieve this, and reflections on gender norms are part of this journey, and methodologies, these household methodologies, support balanced decision-making at the household level. The Tanzanian government has decided for a new program, the Agriculture and Fisheries Development Program, to be implemented with IFAT, and household methodologies will be part of this program, but it will be important to make efforts beyond the reach of this program. Shifts at the household level need to be accompanied by shifts at other levels. For instance, the community level. Community leaders play a key role in facilitating gender transformation. Government and civil society organizations should raise community leaders' gender awareness. Agricultural interventions should not only provide improved seeds, good agricultural practices, new technologies. Technical interventions need to be accompanied by carefully designed social interventions. It is the integration of technical and social aspects that will promote equitable development. Thank you very much. For those who want to read more about the framework and more about our data, you will find this on the slideshow. And for those who want to contact me, my contact is also indicated. Thank you very much.